The Super Bowl has been played. What, if any, lessons are there for Washington? Kansas City got waxed. Let's have a podcast. What up, everybody? JP Finley here, Beltway Football, joined by the big man, Mr. Mitch Tischler. As always, brought to you by MGM National Harbor. We love it over there. You should too. They got roulette. They got pai gow. They got pizza. They got sushi. They got this crab dish in that restaurant Ginger that'll blow your mind, Mitchell. How you doing?
They got baccarat, they got poker,
Lots.
they got slots, they got everything you need. And I think we should probably plan an evening over there one of these days, coming up, maybe early next month or something.
I think we should. College hoops heating up, Terps heating up, Caps heating up. Although hockey's off for 2 weeks, which is incredibly dumb to me, and everybody tells me I'm wrong. Like football's over. I'm ready to lock in on the Caps. Does today at all feel to you? It really feels to me in a way like the sorry, I hit the wrong button. Like the first day of summer. You know what I mean? Like because even after the Skins lost in the NFC title game, we knew we were going to New Orleans for a crazy week of work. And now it's like the combine is in 3 weeks, and it's just now it's over for a while.
Yeah, I was disappointed when the Commanders lost. I woke up this morning and I felt a little sad, a little empty. The football season's over. Probably the most fun football season I've had. Not probably the most fun football season I've had, in my lifetime outside of, 92. But
Certainly in our professional or adult
professional lifetime,
lives.
yeah. And so I was like, man, I texted one of our group chats. I was like, the only thing I can positively take away from the Super Bowl or try and turn positive is maybe the Eagles knocked Pat Mahomes off the throne. Maybe he's not this unstoppable force that he's been in the NFL, and paved the way for Jaden to start ascending to get up there. I don't know whether that's actually true or not, or whether I really believe it, but in the moment, that was the only way I could find any sort of joy in what we watched on Sunday at the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of factors. The Eagles were undoubtedly the best roster in football this year. Howie Roseman is really, really good at what he does, and it sucks that it's in Washington's division, and this is something that everybody's got to deal with, right? Like I could tip my cap to their greatness and not enjoy it. I don't like it. It kind of made me
Yeah.
want to barf watching that game. Um, that said, clearly Jaden has entered a conversation here, a top 10 undoubtedly, and then how much more can I kind of wonder where Jalen Hurts is now in this conversation. I'm not ready to, I don't know. You don't want to be too microwave, too reactionary. I'm having a weird balance thing for me because a lot of folks have said correctly, hey, Kansas City got their ass kicked and Washington played them pretty tough 3 straight games. They beat them once. There's a part of me that wants to be dismissive of the participation trophy mindset. And then there's a part of me that remembers how Ron and the gang and a lot of fans, and I wrote about this and got a call from Ashburn where people were very mad at me the next day. But after the Heineke lost to Tampa and then Tampa won the Super Bowl, people tried to extrapolate that. And I thought that was asinine and complete avocado toast bullshit, right? Now, this is different because you got to the NFC title game. You played that team 3 times. They're in your division. And frankly, Jaden looked way better all 3 games against Philly's vaunted defense than Mahomes did last night. So I say all that, but I also think it's important to remember, and we say this all the time, man, each week in the NFL is its own entity. And that effort and performance we saw from Philly on the Super Bowl was the best they played all year. It's the best that D-line played all year. So Jaden has faced that defense, but he didn't face that defense on that day. And to me, that's an important difference.
I will say to that point though, like that they played them 3 times. 2 of them were tight. Obviously, the playoff game kind of got away from them at the end, and the score looked worse than it was. But this Eagles roster is at least 3 years and maybe even 4 years ahead of where Washington is. So the fact that they were able to play them tight a couple times with the roster that they had is certainly encouraging. And listen, I don't know that you can expect that the talent level jump that Adam Peters was able to make between last year's team and this year's team, they're going to be able to replicate this offseason or the offseason after that. But if you continue in this upward trajectory and they continue to do well in free agency, continue to hit in the draft, because let's point out that Jaden Daniels was obviously played way above expectation. I think you got to say the same about Mikey Sanders still. I mean, that guy went out and played a really, really good season in an uncomfortable position. And if they can continue to kind of, hit on some of these mid rounders as they continue to go and do well in free agency, you can see a situation next year, in 2 years, in 3 years, where you might be talking about this Washington roster as being one of the best ones in the NFL as well, because AP and DQ hit at such a high level this offseason.
Yeah, I mean, the Sandersville thing's a little interesting when you see what DeJean did and they traded out of that pick, but it was also a volume play. They were able to add more guys. What they need, so the other part of this is like they need a couple drafts where in 21, Philly went Devontae Smith, Landon Dickerson, Milton Williams, Gainwell. Like you need, it's a good class is awesome, but when you stack up, that's 21, 22, they added Jordan Davis, Cam Jurgens, Nakobe Dean, and Calcaterra, the backup tight end with the almost 200th pick. Then 23, you had Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith. And then this past year, you had Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, Jalix Hunt gave him some real good pass rush. Like, when you stack those drafts over and over, to me, Hurts deserved MVP because it's an individual award, right? But the most dominant group on the field was the Eagles D line. And you're not going to you can't, like maybe you could say Josh Sweat because he had the 2.5 sacks or whatever. Maybe you could say DeJean because he had the pick six. But like individually, I think Hurts deserved it. He was so good. I mean, the deep throw to Smith, the way he used his legs, he deserved it. But I think the biggest lesson for me is build up your trenches. And like Philly was dominant on both sides of the ball. Even though Saquon never got going, Hurts had good pockets. The only real difference is Saquon never hit the homer. He never stacked that 45-yard run on there. But they also stayed committed to the run, which I think matters. But my big takeaway,
7 carries for 57 yards or something.
I think it was 25 for 57. Yeah. But dude,
wasn't even hitting the big
it was
one.
26 for a $110 because he had hit the 140 yarder. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I give you that. To your point though, like, Ron Rivera doesn't deserve credit for much, but his theoretical thinking about getting those 2 interior D tackles that can wreck a game, the Eagles showed you what having 2 dominant interior tackles.
Hell, but sadly, that wasn't even Ron. That was Bruce.
That was Bruce. Yeah, you're right. I meant, I guess, with the re-signings is where I was thinking about.
They tried to get the edges right. I guess
right.
Bruce drafted Montez, but he drafted Chase. I don't know. We don't need to go too far back, and we can just look ahead at this point. Yeah. But the only other thing I want to point out, because I think Zach Bond, I don't know how you figure that money out. Maybe they tag him because linebackers are now making 20, like a great middle linebacker. Mike Backer is making 20 mil. And he's done it for 1 year and was a 4-year special teamer. And that defense is incredibly special. And you wonder some of the parts or individual, right? Bond's a stud, though.
Stud.
I don't know what you do there. I have a feeling he doesn't get out of Philly. If they have to tag him, they tag him. But Josh Sweat and Milton Williams are going to be free agents. And you got to imagine those guys get out. Maybe not, but I kind of feel like they will. I am not of the mind to go after those 2. They were really good in that game. They combined for 4.5 sacks. But that whole group is so good that I don't know how much of an individual, like, unless it's Jalen Carter, I don't know that there's one individual that performs the same way outside of that unit. You know what I'm saying? So those guys don't become – the target for me remains Myles Garrett. And, we talked about that at length last week. I don't know if that is the same for you. Now, I'm not saying they'll get him. There might be other teams willing to give more. And like we said, this is year 1 of what these guys hope is hey, baby, my 6-year-old's home, so that could get interesting. For a timestamp guy, it's 5:18 p.m. on Monday, February 10th. Also, credit to the big man. I did not think I was getting a pod text today, but reacting to the Super Bowl is fair.
Yeah, I figured we were going to react to the Super Bowl. And
I think the next one's like Thursday or maybe next week.
Thursday. Yeah,
Oh, we have a
Thursday.
show. Or do we
No, no
not?
show, no show this week, no TV show this week. So
Hell, maybe it's next week. We'll see.
we'll pod
Um,
as we go.
but the one other thing I wanted to bring up was Deebo. Um, Deebo's been granted. He said he talked to Kyle and he can look for a trade. Um, Deebo's a great player when he is on the field. He's fantastic. He misses a lot of time. Um, he's got,
I think 17 mil next year or something like that is the number.
yeah, nothing guaranteed. So you'd have to rework that deal anyway. I don't know what the compensation to get him looks like. Um, I think Deebo's a fascinating player, and I'm in Cliff's offense. I think, you know what I mean? Because there's so much short stuff where Deebo can then use the physicality and the ability to
Right.
make people miss. And um,
I was gonna
I
like
don't,
those quick tunnel screens they threw to Diami. Diami did a really good job with it this year, particularly in the playoffs. But he had a couple nice little flashes in the season as well. But if that's a Deebo Samuel getting those passes, not Diami Brown, I mean, that's a big difference.
and dude, they have a ton of cap space. Like they have the ability to make stuff work. And I think if you look at the Niners record when Deebo was on the field versus when he wasn't, he's an absolute difference maker. But he misses a lot of time, dude. Like
They
I don't know if you looked this up. I looked it up earlier on the radio. How many thousand Debo's been in the league since 2019? How many 1,000-yard receiving seasons do you think he has?
I mean, I guess three.
One.
Wow.
And because he does so much as a runner, he has 2,000-yard from scrimmage seasons out of seven, dude.
Shout out to the balloons coming through your Zoom. That was pretty good. But
Oh, did I do a thumbs up?
I think you threw the peace
Now,
sign.
granted, he's played 15 each of the last 2 years, but I don't know.
The
I
question
don't
for
know.
him is going to be, first of all, the ability to stay on the field, which is important. I think he'd be a nice piece, a very nice opposite Terry piece. But considering that we're talking both trade capital and probably having to re-sign him to a deal, and like, if he's willing to play on a show me deal, like I'd be much more interested in making that deal. But like, if I have to sign him to a 3 or 4 year deal and he's talking, 20, 22 mil, like this team has a ton of cap space, and we kind of mentioned it over the weekend or over the week in New Orleans. The team has a ton of cap space, but you have to keep in mind that because last year so many of these guys were on 1 year deals, that there's a ton of open roster spots that have to be filled, and we're starting to get down to a place where you're talking about probably 25 to 30, maybe 35 mil in free agency after you re-sign a bunch of dudes, and like if you're talking Myles Garrett and you're talking Deebo, like that's more than 25 right there. And granted, there's ways you can structure it to, figure out everything that's happening or whatever. But like the idea that this team has buku cap room is true on paper, but not really in practicality.
Yeah, and it carries over. And frankly, I don't know that Terry's going to play with no guarantees. You know what
Right.
I mean? Um,
That was my concern last year when we were talking about all the we were talking about trading for Deebo at that point was Deebo was going to need a new contract. Terry was going to need a new contract.
Terry's
And all
going
of a
into the
sudden,
last year because the 26 year on Terry's deal is a void year.
right.
He's going into the last year of his deal with no guarantees. He just broke a franchise record for touchdowns. Like he was what, second team All Pro. Like
Yeah.
I won't be shocked if Terry gets a rework deal. Now that might be more advantageous to the cap this year, but eventually I just think the spending spree that some are hoping for and expecting, I'm not sure I am. Uh, but
I would,
Debo's
yeah.
not getting a 4 year deal now, not a real 4 year deal. Like he's going to get, like he just turned 29. He's probably going to get
Right.
on paper.
3 years, 74 mil or 3 years.
On
Uh,
paper, it's going to be more like 3 for 120 or something.
yeah.
But I think in real life, you're talking 2 for 80.
Yeah. I mean,
That's a
and that's
lot, dude. I mean,
a lot of money.
receivers make a lot.
Yeah.
That's why I'd rather you draft him, but he's absolutely a difference maker. So
I agree. I want to draft. I said it when we talked Cooper Cup, and I feel similarly in this situation. Yes, Deebo is a difference maker. I just I don't. You ended up in a situation. You have a defense that needs a ton of needs, and when the defense had more players on it, they doubled down and re-signed John and Duran, and you had this, this block of money that was just tough to work around and build a franchise out of. And if you have two receivers that are both getting that kind of top end money, I think it creates a situation where you're not going to be able to address a lot more on offense because you almost have to put all the rest of your money to the defensive side of the ball. And I just wanted to circle back on the Josh Sweat thing real quick. And I think just as you look at Dorrance Armstrong, he came from that Cowboys defensive line that did so well. He had 8.5 sacks and kind of limited work, came here and was asked to be the man instead of being a man amongst men. And, he didn't quite have the season that I think a lot of folks were hoping or expecting. Now, Dante Fowler went out and had 10.5 sacks, which I think was a surprise and a revelation, but that was mostly coming in pass obvious downs for the most part. So I just, when I look at these guys who have had success but haven't had to have success being the main guy, I'm less willing to pay them what they're going to start demanding, which is pushing towards top ends of markets here.
yeah, man. And I mean, if you look at that Philly defense, dude, how many of those guys are on rookie deals or kind of veterans they found and are balling? Like
Right.
DeJean and Mitchell, um,
The two interior.
Carter, Smith, Davis. Sweat got a redone deal, but it didn't break the bank. Bond's making nothing. Um, I'm trying to think Blankenship. Slay, they're paying. But
Blanket
like,
CJ Gardner Johnson and Slay they're paying. Reed Blankenship's a reasonable deal, for a guy who plays as much as he does. But you have two corners on your rookie deals. Your two big horses in your interior line are on rookie deals. They have two starting linebackers that are both on rookie deals. N'Kobe Dean and who's the dude that blew out his knee?
that was Dean.
Who's the other? Nolan
Burks.
Smith. No,
Oh,
Nolan Smith.
yeah.
No, you're looking at six big time
I
contributors.
think that
On,
Eagles defense is the youngest in the NFL.
yeah,
Like, so I think if there is a lesson, it's build it through the draft, like Peters has been saying, and then you supplement. But they probably won a couple drafts before they build it like that. And I also think and we talked about this with the O line, like depth, especially on
yeah,
your D line. You need a bunch of people. Like, dude, how good is Ojomo last
yeah.
night? Like, it wasn't a ton of snaps, but and then offensively, I've heard the conversation like, who are you looking to replace on the O line? I don't know that it's necessarily replace anybody, but going into this season, I don't think Wiley has any guaranteed money left. That doesn't mean he's not under contract, but like an actual guarantee on it. Yeah, Wiley doesn't have guaranteed money. Biotish has some, like Allegretti has a little bit. Coleman's on a rookie deal. Um,
Cornelius Lucas.
Lucas is a free agent. They got to get him done if they're going to bring him
Right.
back. I would do that as a swing tackle that has value for you. Trent Scott, I would guess, is a free agent. Um, I think, dude, how many?
Dieter's is Dieter back? I think Dieter was a
I
two
think
year,
he was a 1 year,
1 year. Yeah.
dude. But think about how many different players, not even combinations, but I think did they have 8 different starters on the O line this year? 9, because Dieter started a game.
Dieter,
Lucas, Scott. That's at least
Scott.
8.
Yeah.
Like you need depth, dude. And you're not going to draft all of that in 1 year. So I think the money is going there, honestly.
Yeah.
Both sides. Both sides.
I think last offseason, there was all this talk about how much money they have, and the team wasn't quite sure what they had, so everyone was kind of okay with 1 year deals. And I think based on the success, we're going to see fans, national media pundits, folks like that hammering some of these star players as, oh, they make sense in Washington. And they certainly make sense in Washington, but you know, Jaden Daniels covered up so many warts this season on this
Yeah.
roster. He made, he made so many plays and did so much offensively to keep that thing moving. And then that in turn obviously put pressure on opposing offenses, which helped. You can extrapolate this thing out pretty far as to what Jaden does, but to continue, building this thing in a what I think Adam Peters would want to call a responsible way is going to be a super important piece to long-term success of this franchise, as opposed to, the Dan Snydering of teams trying to buy your way in and winning the offseason. And hey, I'm going to turn over this roster in one season and turn it into what the Eagles have. And I think it might be frustrating, or maybe not the most pleasing way to go about it. But I think fans have to start wrapping their head around, you know, this team isn't trying to push all their chips in and win next season. They're trying to build this thing that can win this year, next year, the year after that, and on down the road. And part of that is building responsibly and, not getting, not getting jumpy, overly excited about, the shiny thing that happens to be up over here.
I think that's a great way to say it. You can't be chasing sugar highs, but it's gonna be fun. I mean, dude, it's about a month till free agency opens.
It's wild. It's,
Having
as I,
football through all of January really changes our calendar. Like normally by now we'd have like 8 articles about what to do.
as I was being melancholy today about the end of the NFL season, I look at the calendar. It's February 10th at 5:30 p.m. right now, and in 16 days, 17 days, we're going to be in Indianapolis at the combine. And it's going to be a totally different world, because all of a sudden you're picking number 29 in the draft, and there's a billion different ways they can go at 29. And it's going to be real hard to pinpoint the player or the types of players that they're going to be looking at there. It's going to be a new world as we go through the NFL offseason here, because it's just everything's different for us.
The world has changed and left me here. Totally. The only other thing that do you know this dude, NFL nerd on Twitter, nerding on NFL?
No.
He's like, listen, man, this is all a guess, but he builds out a complete 272 game mock schedule, and he put it out today. And like, who the hell knows? But it's just fascinating. His opener. So a lot of talk if the Commanders will open the NFL season in Philly, and they easily could, right?
Yeah.
I don't know that they will, but they easily could. Instead, so this dude, I'm just going to run you through the highlights to me. We all know there's going to be a lot of prime times coming. I have heard it could be Brazil for the opener against the Chargers. We've also all heard that the Dolphins in Madrid are in play. So this dude has them opening Sunday Night Football in KC against the Chiefs, which I could completely see, Jaden versus Mahomes. Yeah. Then the home opener, week 2, Monday night against the Broncos, Knicks versus Jaden. Week 3 at Green Bay in the 4 o'clock window, like the game of the week, which I would not mind going to Green Bay in late September instead of.
You know how I feel about Green Bay.
Yeah, but we could play golf too. That might change your opinion.
Listen, I love the golf idea of it. I've been to Green Bay, I think 3 or 4 times, and every time we've been there, it's been reasonable weather.
That's not true. You and I have been twice when it's been cold as hell. Now, our definition, I mean, it was snowing.
It was, to us, that's snowing. To Green Bay, that's
yeah, but Mitch, I'm us. I'm not them. I'm us.
I want
I don't. You want
one
30.
Yeah, I want one frozen tundra Lambeau game to be there. But anyways, either way, that opening of the season would be pretty strong.
Right. So fun. At Chiefs Sunday night, home against the Broncos Monday night, Bears national TV window. I assume I would take Fox, but I don't know. I'm sorry, Packers week 3. Bears Thursday night in Landover. They play the Bears Thursday night every year. It's
yeah.
Skip ahead, Dolphins week 11 in Madrid, then another Sunday night in LA against the Chargers.
Does that mean he has the bye week on week 12? Because that would be real tough that's like 4 straight years of the bye week has been end of the season.
That according to this, which is completely nonsensical, yes, it would be bye week 12. Um, I don't know. It's very different for this time of year to be talking strictly football and so excited about how the schedule could break down because I look at those first four, dude, or the first three, Chiefs, Broncos, Packers, they're all playoff teams. And I can't, rather than, oh my God, how hard is this schedule? Damn, I can't wait to see this team play those teams. It's just a different feeling.
Yeah, I mean, and listen, the schedule is more difficult because they are the second place team, but also point out that that's a difference of 3 games in a 17 game schedule with
Right.
them being
From the rest of the division.
the rest of the division. So like it's moderately more difficult than than last year's schedule, but it's pretty much the same as the rest of the NFC East and what they're going to be dealing with.
Well,
Their
dude,
games are
the
yeah,
difference is so they get the second place schedule because Philly
right,
gets the one. And the only difference is the games against Miami was second place in the AFC East,
right.
Atlanta, second place in the NFC South, and the Raiders. No, the Raiders is an AFC West game. So who the hell's
Yeah.
the other one?
It should be the NFC West. They should play the
Seahawks at home.
Seahawks. Yeah. So those are the 3 games that are different. And Phillies is obviously has the first place schedule. So when you look at the schedule, this year's schedule is going to be harder because the overall scope of the teams that the NFC East are playing are more difficult. And so and the fact that this season this team traveled
Chargers, not
outside of
Raiders.
the Eastern time zone twice, right? To Dallas and New Orleans, and I guess Arizona. So 3 times they were outside of the Eastern time zone. Next year, it's what five,
LA,
five
LA, KC, Miami, which is still East Coast, Dallas, and if Miami ends up in Europe, that's out of
right?
the time
So
zone there.
Green Bay.
Green Bay. Yeah,
So
so
there's a
Chiefs,
lot of travel.
LA, Green Bay, Dallas, and then at Minnesota too.
I believe Minneapolis
I think
is
that's central.
is that central? Yeah, that is central. That's definitely central.
I think the one that we always think Detroit is central, and it's not.
Indianapolis and Detroit are the two that always screw us up.
Yeah, but doesn't Indianapolis like not have daylight savings or something?
I have no idea.
All
I
right.
think Arizona's the same way, but yeah.
The last thing I have to discuss is not football related, and I'm going to be dead honest here. I don't really think you're the guy to help me with this, but I thought we'd address it.
All right.
Um, got home, got to play some basketball with my daughter in the driveway because the weather wasn't too bad. Um, my driveway just covered in leaves. Obviously, it's not the fall, but I think that stuff's still falling or whatever. Not like covered, but like in the corners of the driveway and all
Just
that.
enough that it's a pain in the ass.
So I got my leaf blower out and blew it out, but it wasn't a lot. What are you supposed What are you supposed to do with the leaves you blow? Do I have to
Well, I
back?
know
I kind of just hit them under my wife's car.
doesn't your neighborhood and it's probably already come and passed, but doesn't your neighborhood do some sort of leaf collecting
Yeah,
where
in
you
the
put all your
fall.
leaves out? Yeah. So outside of it, you just blow it under your wife's car and hope it doesn't show up.
That's what I did. And it's gonna snow and rain or whatever, so just wash away.
Yeah, just disappear into the ether.
It's all natural, right? Like that's the life cycle. That's what they taught me in The Lion King, I think. Circle of life.
I just so I had a pretty great Super Bowl Sunday, just perfectly relaxing and chill and fun. Showed up to my buddy's house for the game, and his daughter is wearing his wife's 1992 Super Bowl
I saw that. Was
shirt.
that Wes?
No, it was Zach and Julie's daughter,
Okay.
Natalie. She's 3 and maybe 4. She's 3, I believe. And like, I was just like, that's the coolest thing that A, she held onto it, or her family held onto that shirt for so long, and B, that they dug it out for the game.
I
Now, my
love that.
issue was all of the kids that were there were rooting for the Eagles, which I was a little embarrassed for all of them by.
Why? Just they
I
like
don't,
Taekwon or something?
yeah, I think they know a couple more players. I mean, obviously Patrick Mahomes is the most well-known player, but I think they saw the Eagles play a bunch, and so they know some of the players and made it easy to root for them. But for those of us that did not want to see the Eagles win a Super Bowl, it was hearing the kids cheering about it was a little bit of a dagger to the heart.
I think kids fandom is so random.
Yeah,
Fandom is random until they're like maybe kindergarten, 6-ish. Because you have no idea what's going on. They might just like a color. I mean,
Yeah,
uh,
certainly. We did boxes. Julie did
although there
boxes.
were a lot of like I had to go to the Giant on Sunday. First off, the grocery store on Super Bowl Sunday is like going on like the day before Thanksgiving. It's a madhouse. Um, I did see a lot of Philly gear. I think we also live close enough that there's enough of those people here.
Yeah,
That game sucked.
it's. I mean, maybe I'm forgetting a more recent Super Bowl, but that was the worst game, like football game in the Super Bowl. It,
The last kind of beatdown was Tampa beating down the Chiefs.
yeah,
That was never 34 nothing, you know?
right.
The last ass kicking like that, I think, was the Seahawks against the Broncos because their defense in that game was just so clearly superior immediately. They just controlled everything. And that's how the Eagles Chiefs felt to me.
Yeah, I mean, the Chiefs when Mahomes early on in that game missed the two easy passes to, I think one was to Worthy and one was to Kelsey for first
Yeah.
downs, and
Yeah.
they ended up having a punt. And then the Eagles getting the turnover right before the half, the Zach Bond pick was exactly what they did to the Commanders in the
After
NFC.
Cooper DeJean, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? After the pick six. Yeah.
That thing just got it. That like for that thing to go over in the first half was it took a wild set of circumstances, and they all came through.
Yeah, dude. All right. From Super Bowls to leaf blowing, we've covered it all. And
We
we may or
have.
may not be back for a while.
We'll let you know when we're recording next. But JP and I have both had quite a long football season, and we're gonna catch our breaths here a little bit, and JP is gonna have to take care of the kids a little bit more. So we're gonna figure our stuff out here.
Yes, we've planned. I think there'll be better trips planned, but guess what we've planned for President's Day weekend?
Skiing.
Nope.
I
If
don't
you
know.
guess this, I'll give you $25.
Oh, Great Wolf Lodge.
Damn. I rescind that offer. Because I
Oh,
clearly have told you about that.
no, you definitely did not tell me about it. I just have a
Damn.
bunch of friends who have done Great Wolf in the last couple weeks.
All right, then I do owe you the 25. Yeah, man. So because Shelby's birthday has been during these preseason joint practices, and
Yeah.
like they're so little, I don't want to miss their birthdays. So I brought the family with me. The first time it was to Baltimore. So I didn't realize the precedent I was setting. That was pretty easy to do. This past summer was Florida and cost me, X. But so my little one has been pissed that she doesn't get a trip for her birthday. So then her birthday was the week of the Tampa game, and they're like, "Baby, I can't go away right now. As soon as they get done,
Yeah.
we'll go away." And then they go to the NFC title game, and then it's the Super Bowl. So here, Great Wolf Lodge, here I come. I'm cannonballs. I got my beach body ready. We'll be ready to go.
I can't wait to see the selfie videos of you going down the water slides.
You think I should be one of those dads that wears like the long sleeve shirt, even though it's indoors and it's not like a sun protectant at that point?
I thought you were going to go the other way and say, "Am I going to be?" You should be one of those dads that wears a speedo.
Those dads don't exist, Mitch. Maybe in Sweden, but not. We're going like outside of Baltimore. If there's a dude in a speedo there, I'm calling the police.
And if it's you, so be it.
It's not me. We got to go. Thank you to MGM National Harbor. Thank you to Oarsman. We love the guys, Oarsman Automotive of Virginia. I got to call Biaggi. I got to call Garv. We got to set up a night with them.
I know there's snow maybe this week or coming, but usually the end of football season to me marks the start of golf season in some world. We need an Oarsman monumental golf outing, and we can make it happen.
Sure do. All right, we got to go. Made it this far. I owe you a beer.